Clarence Whitaker, Chief Justice of the D.C. Superior Court, stepped from a gala, his tuxedo crisp under streetlights, expecting a quiet ride home. Suddenly, two officers slammed him against his car, mistaking him for a robbery suspect because of his skin. Cuffs bit his wrists as cameras rolled, onlookers assuming guilt. His pleas echoed unheard, while the real suspect, a white man, vanished into the night. The viral video shattered his reputation, sparking a conspiracy to destroy him. What's sinister? Force targeted Clarence, and could he reclaim his life? Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from, and if you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is one you won't want to miss. Clarence Whitaker sat in his dimly lit living room, the weight of the previous night's arrest pressing against his chest like a stone, his phone buzzing relentlessly with notifications as the viral video of his humiliation spread across Washington, D.C., branding him a criminal in the eyes of millions who once revered him as Chief Justice of the Superior Court. The footage, grainy but damning, looped on every news channel, showing him pinned against his car, cuffs glinting under streetlights, his pleas drowned by officers' shouts, while the real suspect, a white man, slipped into the shadows unnoticed. By morning, his inbox overflowed with hate mail, slurs cutting deeper than the bruises on his wrists, and his name trended online, not as a jurist, but as a thug. He tried to focus, sipping coffee that tasted like ash, but the doorbell's sharp chime jolted him. A courier dropped off a suspension notice from the court, citing public pressure, his judgeship now a fragile thread. Clarence's wife, Evelyn, squeezed his hand, her eyes fierce with defiance, urging him to fight. But their daughter, Simone, a college sophomore, stared at her phone, tears streaking her face as classmates shared memes mocking her father. The injustice burned, a fire in Clarence's gut. But he knew this was no random mistake. The officers' haste, their refusal to check his ID, reeked of something orchestrated. He opened his laptop, determined to trace the incident, and found a local news segment hosted by a smug anchor, replaying a doctored clip of the arrest, edited to make Clarence seem aggressive, lunging at the officers, his voice distorted to sound threatening. The anchor's commentary, laced with coded racism, hinted at Clarence's questionable character, and the segment credited an anonymous source within the police department. Clarence's blood ran cold. This was a deliberate smear, and he suspected Captain Raymond Holt, a high-ranking officer with a history of targeting black officials whose icy stare Clarence had once met during a court oversight meeting. Holt's name surfaced in whispers among D.C.'s legal circles, a man whose charm masked a ruthless agenda, his influence stretching from precincts to City Hall. Clarence dug deeper, accessing public records on his secure judicial account, uncovering complaints against Holt for racial profiling, all dismissed under mysterious circumstances. He felt a spark of hope, believing he could expose Holt's misconduct and clear his name, but the spark flickered as his office phone rang. His clerk, voice trembling, reported that his chambers at the courthouse had been vandalized, walls defaced with racial slurs in red paint, files shredded, and a photo of Clarence, with Evelyn torn in half. He drove to the courthouse, the 5-mile trip a blur of honking horns and 90-degree heat, his heart pounding as he stepped into the chaos of his office, the air thick with the stench of paint and betrayal. Reporters swarmed outside, their cameras flashing like vultures circling a carcass, shouting questions about his violent past. Clarence's staff, once loyal, averted their eyes, some whispering about resigning to avoid the scandal's taint. He clenched his fists, the injustice a blade twisting in his chest, but he refused to break. Back home he worked late, compiling a dossier on Holt, including a dismissed case where Holt's unit framed a black councilman for drug possession. Clarence contacted a trusted journalist, Lena Brooks, who ran an independent outlet known for exposing corruption. She agreed to meet, her voice crackling with excitement over the phone, and Clarence felt a surge of triumph, believing he was steps away from turning the tide. He sent Lena the dossier via an encrypted email, his fingers trembling as he hit send, imagining the headlines that would restore his name. That night, he slept for the first time in days, dreaming of justice, but the dream shattered at dawn when his phone lit up with alerts. His email account had been hacked, private messages leaked to a major news outlet, twisted to paint him as a corrupt judge who took bribes to sway rulings. The messages, cherry-picked and altered, included a fabricated exchange with a lobbyist, offering leniency for cash, and the story exploded online, trending with hashtags calling for Clarence's imprisonment. His suspension, once temporary, was extended indefinitely, the court issuing a statement distancing itself from his ethical breaches. Evelyn's face paled as she read the news, Simone sobbing in her room, and Clarence's hope crumbled, replaced by a chilling realization: Holt was behind this. He traced the hack to a server linked to a private security firm, one Holt had used for off-the-books operations, according to a tip from a retired officer Clarence called in desperation. The firm's records, buried in a legal database, showed payments from Holt's personal account, a breadcrumb trail of corruption. Clarence's rage flared, but so did his fear. Holt's reach was vast, his retaliation swift, and the vandalism was just the beginning. He checked his security system, paranoia creeping in, and found the cameras disabled, their feeds replaced, with static. A knock at the door made him jump, but it was only a neighbor, her eyes pitying as she handed him a flyer circulating in the neighborhood, featuring his mugshot from the arrest, captioned with a slur. The public's hatred was a tidal wave, drowning his legacy, and Clarence knew Holt was orchestrating every wave. He called Lena, but her phone went to voicemail, her outlet's website down, replaced with a blank page. Panic gripped him. Had Holt silenced her too? He drove to her office, a 10-minute trip through DC's bustling streets, only to find it locked, a note taped to the door saying she'd left town. Clarence's stomach churned, his dossier now a liability, his trust in Lena shaken. Back home, he scoured social media, finding a new video trending, a deep fake of him confessing to corruption, his voice eerily accurate, shared by accounts linked to Holt's allies. The video amassed millions of views, comments calling him a disgrace, a traitor to justice. Clarence's knees buckled, the room spinning, but Evelyn's voice cut through, urging him to keep fighting. He nodded, resolve hardening, but the leaked emails had triggered an investigation by the city's ethics board, a body Holt influenced through backroom deals. Clarence's judgeship, his life's work, hung by a thread, and his family's safety was at risk. He locked the doors, checked the windows, and sat with Evelyn, their whispers drowned by the hum of the city outside, 95 degrees of unrelenting heat mirroring the pressure closing in. Holt's smear had worked, turning Clarence's victory into a trap, his evidence weaponized against him. The hacker's trail led to a dead end, the security firm's servers wiped, and Clarence realized Holt was always 2 steps ahead, his vendetta not just personal, but part of a larger machine. Simone emerged from her room, her eyes red but fierce, handing him a USB drive she'd found in the mail, unmarked, containing a single file, a grainy photo of Holt meeting with a known militia leader. Clarence's breath caught. This was proof, a lifeline but also a warning. Holt's next move would be deadlier, and Clarence's fight had only begun. The public scorn, the vandalism, the hack, all were Holt's opening salvos, and Clarence knew the captain's true power lay in his ability to manipulate systems, from media to courts, to crush black leaders like him. He clutched the USB, its weight a promise and a threat, as the city's lights flickered outside, casting shadows that seemed to move with Holt's intent. Clarence's resolve steeled, but the cost of fighting was already too high, his family fractured, his name poisoned. He had to expose Holt, but how when every step forward led to a deeper trap? Clarence Whitaker slumped in his DC home, the USB drive clutched in his palm. Its grainy photo of Captain Raymond Holt with a militia leader, a faint flicker of hope amidst the wreckage of his life, his judgeship suspended, his name smeared, by a viral arrest video and hacked emails that branded him corrupt. The morning sun, piercing through curtains, did little to warm the chill of betrayal as his phone pinged with a bank alert. All accounts frozen, a fabricated tax fraud investigation, locking his savings, leaving him with $20 in cash and a mortgage payment due. The notice, stamped with the city's seal, cited irregularities traced to a shell company. a setup Clarence recognized as Holt's handiwork, the captain's influence snaking through City Hall like ivy choking a tree. Evelyn paced, her voice steady but eyes frantic, calculating how to cover Simone's college tuition, while their daughter scrolled news sites, her face crumpling at headlines calling Clarence a disgrace. The injustice seared, a raw wound as Clarence recalled Holt's smirk at a court oversight meeting, his whispered threats to black officials who dared challenge him. This was no random audit. It was a surgical strike to ruin a black Chief Justice who symbolized progress. Clarence drove 3 miles to his bank, the 92-degree heat blurring the asphalt, only to face a manager who shrugged, claiming orders came from above, her tone clipped, eyes avoiding his. Back home, he called Judge Vanessa Reed, a friend of 20 years, her chambers a refuge during past storms, but her voice was cold, accusing him of dragging the court into scandal. She'd publicly denounced him on a morning talk show, her words a knife. Clarence was unfit, a liability. The betrayal stung deeper than the media's lies, Vanessa's ambition trumping loyalty, likely pressured by Holt's allies who controlled judicial appointments. Clarence's chest tightened, but he refused to crumble, scouring legal forums for a lead, finding a whistleblower, Officer Daniel Pierce, who'd filed a report on Holt's racial profiling, buried by the department. Pierce agreed to meet at a diner 10 miles away, his voice low, promising proof of Holt's corruption, and Clarence felt a surge of triumph, believing this could expose the captain and thaw his accounts. He arrived at the diner, its neon sign flickering in the dusk, and Pierce, a wiry man with nervous eyes, slid a folder across the table containing logs of Holt's unit targeting black professionals, including a case against a councilman framed for drugs. Clarence's pulse raced, his fingers tracing the pages, envisioning a press conference to clear his name, but Pierce's phone buzzed, his face paling as he stammered an excuse and fled. Clarence followed, heart pounding, only to see Pierce vanish into a black SUV, its plates obscured. That night, news broke. Pierce had recanted, claiming Clarence coerced him, a lie fed by Holt's operatives who'd threatened Pierce's family. The folder, Clarence realized, was incomplete, missing key dates, useless in court. His hope shattered, replaced by dread as sirens wailed outside his home, red and blue lights flashing through the windows. Police stormed in, Holt's unit, their warrant citing bribery evidence found in Clarence's basement, a briefcase stuffed with cash and forged documents, planted during a staged utility check he'd overlooked. The raid was a spectacle, neighbors gawking as officers tore through Simone's room, her textbooks scattered, Evelyn's jewelry box smashed. Reporters, tipped off, live-streamed the chaos, their cameras catching Clarence in handcuffs again, his dignity stripped for the second time. The cash, $50,000, was labeled a payoff from a drug cartel, a ludicrous claim, but the media ran with it, hashtags like Justice for Sale trending. Simone sobbed, Evelyn's voice hoarse from shouting at the officers, and Clarence's world collapsed, the planted evidence a masterstroke by Holt, who'd turned his false victory into a deeper trap. The officers' smirks, their casual slurs muttered under breath, confirmed this was racial, a system rigged to crush black excellence. Clarence was released on bail, his account still frozen, now facing criminal charges that could land him in prison for decades. He sat with Evelyn, their home a war zone of overturned furniture, and pieced together Holt's strategy. The captain used City Hall to freeze his funds, Vanessa to isolate him, and Pierce to bait him. The USB drive still in his pocket was his only leverage, but its photo was circumstantial, useless without corroboration. Clarence called a tech consultant, a former clerk who traced the shell company to a firm linked to Holt's brother-in-law, a city contractor. The connection was thin, but it fueled Clarence's resolve, a spark in the darkness. He contacted a private investigator, Maria Chen, who'd exposed corruption in Baltimore, but her email bounced, her office shuttered. Panic crept in. Was Holt silencing his allies? Clarence drove to her last known address, a 15-minute trip. Through DC's rain-slicked streets, finding her building boarded up, a neighbor whispering she'd left after threats. The city felt like a cage, Holt's shadow everywhere, his retaliation a suffocating force. Clarence returned home, the air heavy with 90-degree humidity, and found a letter slipped under the door, anonymous, warning him to stop digging or lose everything. Evelyn read it, her hands shaking, but urged him to fight, her strength a lifeline. Simone, quieter now, researched Holt online, finding a forum post about his militia ties, deleted but cached, a clue linking to the USB's photo. Clarence's mind raced. Holt wasn't just a corrupt cop, but a cog in a racist machine. His vendetta, personal yet systemic, aimed at dismantling black power. The raid, the betrayal, the frozen accounts were Holt's chess moves, each more vicious than the last, and Clarence's fight was now survival. He hid the USB in a safe, its lock clicking like a heartbeat, and planned his next move, knowing Holt's next strike would target his family, his freedom, or both. The city's pulse thrummed outside, a restless beast, and Clarence wondered if justice was possible in a system built to break him. Comment number 1. If you're outraged by this betrayal, or if you think Clarence should keep fighting, hit like and subscribe to follow his battle against this corrupt system. Can Clarence find an ally to expose Holt, or will the captain's next trap destroy his family forever? Clarence Whitaker sat in the cramped office of Maya Torres, a fierce attorney with a reputation for dismantling corrupt systems, her desk piled with files as she outlined a plan to fight the fabricated tax fraud that froze his accounts, the planted bribery evidence from the police raid, and the media storm that painted him as a crooked Chief Justice, all orchestrated by Captain Raymond Holt to crush a black leader who dared shine. The DC air outside was thick, 94 degrees of unrelenting summer. Mirroring the pressure squeezing Clarence's chest, his family fractured, his savings gone, his daughter Simone drowning in online harassment, her college peers sharing vile memes of his cuffed arrest. Evelyn, his wife, had taken a second job, her hands calloused from late shifts, while Clarence, barred from his judgeship, felt the sting of every slur scrawled during the vandalism of his office, every leaked email twisted to brand him corrupt. The USB drive, hidden in his safe, held a grainy photo of Holt with a militia leader, a fragile thread of hope, but useless without proof. Maya, her voice sharp with conviction, filed an emergency motion to unfreeze his accounts, arguing the audit's irregularities screamed of tampering, her legal brief citing Holt's shell company, uncovered by Clarence's tech consultant. The courtroom, a marble vault 7 miles from home, buzzed with reporters as Maya shredded the city's case, exposing the audit's lack of documentation, her words a lifeline pulling Clarence from despair. The judge, a stern woman with no ties to Holt, ruled in their favor, ordering the accounts restored within 48 hours, and Clarence's heart soared, a rare smile breaking through as he hugged Maya, believing he could rebuild, pay the mortgage, shield Simone from the trolls. The victory felt like sunlight after weeks of shadow, and for a moment he imagined reclaiming his name, exposing Holt's vendetta, rooted in the captain's hatred for black excellence, a hatred Clarence had seen in Holt's cold eyes during a court meeting years ago. But the sunlight dimmed that evening when a grand jury indictment hit the news, accusing Clarence of bribery, the planted $50,000 briefcase, now the centerpiece of a federal case, Holt's operatives having bribed a prosecutor to fast-track the charges. The media, Holt's puppet, erupted, anchors dissecting the cartel payoffs with glee, their coded racism veiled as concern for justice, while hashtags like Crooked Clarence trended, amassing 10 million views. Simone, home from college, scrolled X, her face ashen as death threats flooded her inbox. One post showing her dorm's address, a chilling escalation of Holt's campaign. Clarence's victory, mere hours old, crumbled, the restored accounts, meaningless if prison loomed, his family's safety now a flickering flame in a storm. Maya, undeterred, dug into Holt's network, uncovering a whistleblower's affidavit, buried in a legal archive, linking Holt to a racist militia that targeted black officials, the same group in the USB photo. The affidavit, from a retired sergeant, detailed Holt's orders to frame a black councilman, a playbook Clarence recognized in his own ordeal. Maya's eyes gleamed, her voice rising as she planned to file the affidavit in court, believing it could derail the indictment, and Clarence clung to her words, his hope reignited, thinking they'd finally cornered Holt. They worked late, the office lit by a single lamp, drafting motions under the hum of a fan, the 12-mile drive home a distant thought. But at midnight, glass shattered, a brick crashing through Maya's window, followed by gunfire, bullets tearing through files, one grazing Clarence's arm, blood soaking his sleeve. Masked intruders, Holt's militia, stormed in, their boots crunching glass, demanding the affidavit, their slurs spitting venom as they trashed the office, shredding laptops, dousing papers with gasoline. Clarence and Maya dove behind a desk, his heart thundering, her hand gripping his as they crawled to a back exit, the air choking with smoke as flames licked the walls. They escaped, stumbling into an alley, the fire's roar drowning out sirens. But the affidavit, their lifeline, was ash. The intruders gone, their attack a surgical strike by Holt to bury the truth. Police arrived, Holt's unit, their smirks familiar, claiming the break-in was a robbery gone wrong, no mention of the militia, their report already typed. Clarence's arm throbbed, the graze a burning reminder of Holt's reach, his retaliation. A blade sharper than the raid, targeting not just Clarence but Maya, whose career now hung by a thread. The media spun the fire as Clarence's fault, a desperate act to destroy evidence. Ex-posts claiming he'd hired thugs to cover his tracks, the lies piling like bricks on his chest. Evelyn bandaged his arm at home, her silence heavy with fear, Simone locking her door, her trust fraying under the weight of threats. Clarence's accounts, though unfrozen, were drained by legal fees, the victory hollow, the indictment a guillotine waiting to fall. He sifted through the USB's photo, its pixels a taunt, knowing Holt's militia was real, their attack proof of his fear. But without the affidavit, Clarence was a man shouting into a void. Maya, shaken but defiant, vowed to rebuild the case, her apartment now a target. Her life as entangled in Holt's web as Clarence's. He drove her to a safe house, a 20-minute trip through DC's neon-lit streets, the city a maze of Holt's allies. Every shadow a threat. The safe house, a cramped apartment, smelled of mildew, its windows barred, a far cry from Clarence's courtroom. Maya pulled out a burner phone, contacting a source who'd seen Holt's militia in action, but the line cut off, static replacing hope. Clarence's mind raced, piecing together Holt's strategy. The captain used the indictment to distract, the fire to destroy, his militia to terrorize, each move more vicious, more personal, a racist machine grinding Clarence's life to dust. The bribery charge, built on lies, was Holt's checkmate, leveraging a system that presumed black guilt, a system Clarence had sworn to reform. He clutched Evelyn's hand, her warmth grounding him, but Simone's distant gaze, her phone buzzing. With threats was a wound no bandage could close. The safe house's walls closed in, 90 degrees of stifling air. And Clarence knew Holt's next move would be deadlier, targeting his family, his freedom, or both. He hid the USB in a floorboard, its click a faint pulse, and planned with Maya. Their whispers urgent, knowing the indictment's trial loomed, a rigged game where Holt held the cards. The city's skyline glittered outside, a false promise of justice, and Clarence wondered if he could outsmart a man who weaponized the system. Itself, his vendetta a fire that burned hotter with each step Clarence took. Clarence Whitaker stood in a DC courtroom, its oak benches packed with reporters, their pens scratching like vultures picking at his life as the bribery trial began, a rigged spectacle orchestrated by Captain Raymond Holt to bury a black chief. Justice under lies of cartel payoffs, the $50,000 briefcase planted in his home, now a noose around his neck. The air was stifling, 93 degrees. The courthouse's old vents wheezing, mirroring Clarence's struggle to breathe as Judge Harold Vance, a known Holt ally, glared down, his bias clear in every sustained objection against Maya Torres. Clarence's attorney, whose sharp motions were drowned by the prosecution's theatrics. The jury, handpicked by Holt's operatives, sat stone-faced, their eyes avoiding Clarence, a black man presumed guilty before he spoke, the weight of his viral arrest, hacked emails, and fabricated indictment crushing his legacy. Evelyn watched. From the gallery, her hands clasped, while Simone, targeted by online trolls, stayed home, her phone silenced after threats pinpointed her dorm. The USB drive, hidden in a safe-house floorboard, held a photo of Holt with a militia leader, Clarence's only proof but useless without the affidavit burned in the militia's attack on Maya's office, an attack that left his arms scarred, a constant throb of Holt's racism. Maya fought fiercely, cross-examining a detective who fumbled under her questions, admitting the briefcase's chain of custody was shaky, a crack in Holt's armor. Clarence took the stand, his voice steady, recounting his 30-year career, his reforms for fair sentencing, his life as a black man navigating a system stacked against him, each word a defiance of the slurs scrawled on his office, the media's lies calling him a thug. The gallery stirred, some jurors leaning forward, and ex-posts shifted, praising his eloquence, trending with justice for Clarence, amassing 2 million views. Maya's closing argument, a fiery indictment of systemic racism, swayed the room, and Clarence felt a flicker of triumph, believing he'd won the public, maybe even the jury, his name inching toward redemption. The judge adjourned for deliberation, and Clarence hugged Evelyn, her tears warm against his cheek, whispering they'd survived this, their family unbroken despite frozen accounts and raided homes. But that night, 8 miles from the courthouse, gunfire shattered their hope, a drive-by shooting targeting their home, bullets ripping through windows, one striking Evelyn in the shoulder, blood pooling on the oak floor as Simone screamed, dialing 911. Clarence pressed a towel to the wound, his hands shaking, rage and guilt colliding as paramedics stormed in, their radios crackling with Holt's unit's voices, the same unit that raided his home, their slurs echoing in his mind. Evelyn was rushed to a hospital 12 miles away, her condition critical, and Clarence, barred from the ambulance due to his bail conditions, drove behind, the 90-degree night blurring through tears. The media, Holt's puppet, spun the shooting as gang violence linked to Clarence's cartel ties, a lie that exploded online, ex-posts claiming he'd endangered his family, the Justice for Clarence hashtag buried under a wave of hate, 5 million views in hours. Simone at the hospital clung to Clarence, her voice hoarse, blaming him for drawing Holt's wrath, a dagger in his heart. Maya arrived, her face grim, uncovering a hidden police report, leaked by a nurse who'd overheard Holt's men bragging, linking the shooting to the militia, the same group that torched her office, their orders traced to Holt's encrypted phone. The report detailed a pattern. Holt's unit staged attacks on black leaders, framing them as collateral damage, a racist playbook to silence dissent. Clarence's hopes surged, the report a lifeline to expose Holt, to save Evelyn, to clear his name, and Maya planned to file it in court, believing it could halt the trial, maybe even free him. They worked through the night, the hospital's fluorescent lights harsh, drafting motions as Evelyn stabilized, her pulse steady but weak. But dawn brought devastation. Maya's apartment was firebombed 15 miles away, the blaze consuming her backups, the police report reduced to cinders, Holt's operatives striking again, their efficiency a chilling signature. Firefighters, under Holt's influence, ruled it arson, pinning it on Clarence, claiming he'd targeted Maya to silence her. A lie that hit the news, anchors smirking as they reported his desperate act. Ex-posts calling him a monster, trending with Clarence, the criminal. The jury, sequestered but exposed to leaks, returned a guilty verdict, Vance's gavel a thunderclap, sentencing Clarence to 20 years, his judgeship stripped, his life erased. Evelyn, still in recovery, wept through a hospital phone, Simone's, silence louder than her sobs, and Clarence, cuffed again, felt the system's weight, its racism of vice crushing his soul. The media's lies, the militia's bullets, the burned report, all were Holt's weapons. His vendetta a fire that burned hotter with each victory Clarence dared to claim. Maya, now homeless, vowed to appeal, her voice a spark in the dark, but Clarence saw Holt smirk in his mind, the captain's power untouched, his militia a shadow army. The hospital's antiseptic smell clung to him, Evelyn's blood on his hands a memory that wouldn't fade, and he knew Holt's next move would be deadlier, targeting Simone, Maya, or his own survival. The USB, still hidden, was a faint pulse, but Clarence needed more, a witness, a file, something to break Holt's machine. The courtroom's echo faded, replaced by the clank of cuffs, and Clarence, driven to a cell, planned his next step, his resolve a blade sharpened by loss. The city's skyline, visible through a barred window, mocked him, its lights a false promise, and he wondered if justice could survive a system built to devour men like him. Comment number 1. If you're enraged by this injustice, or if you believe Clarence can still fight back, hit like and subscribe to see his next move against Holt's empire. Will Clarence find a way to break free, or has Holt's racist machine finally won? Clarence Whitaker sat in a DC jail cell, the clang of steel bars a constant reminder of his 20-year sentence for bribery. A lie crafted by Captain Raymond Holt to erase a black Chief Justice whose reforms threatened a racist system. His life now a shadow of the courtroom he once commanded. His wife Evelyn recovering from a malicious drive-by shooting, his daughter Simone haunted by online threats, and his attorney Maya Torres homeless after Holt's operatives firebombed her apartment. The cell's air was thick, 91 degrees, the stench of sweat and despair clinging to the walls, while Clarence's arm, scarred from the malicious attack, throbbed under a threadbare bandage, his only lifeline, the USB drive hidden in a safe house, its photo of Holt with a militia leader, a faint hope against a guilty verdict built on planted evidence and a biased jury. Holt's vendetta, rooted in Clarence's blackness, had stripped his judgeship, frozen his accounts, and turned the public against him with viral lies, from his arrest video to a deepfake confession. But Clarence's resolve burned, fueled by Evelyn's strength and Simone's fragile trust. A guard, Officer Malik Turner, a young black man who'd whispered admiration for Clarence's reforms during processing, slipped him a note, offering a way out, his eyes darting nervously, promising a distraction during the night shift. Clarence hesitated, the risk immense, but Evelyn's blood on his hands, Simone's fear and Maya's courage pushed him forward, the USB his only chance to expose Holt's racist empire. At midnight, Malik staged a fight in the cell block, shouts and fists drawing the guards, leaving Clarence's gate unlocked, a 6-second window to slip through, his heart pounding as he crawled through a maintenance duct, the 8-foot drop, to a loading bay bruising his knees. He sprinted into the night, DC's neon lights a maze, the 90-degree humidity choking his lungs, and reached the safe house 10 miles away, where Maya waited, her face gaunt but fierce, the USB still, secure in its floorboard hide. They drove to a hacker's den, 15 miles across the city, a basement buzzing with servers where Maya's contact, a wiry tech named Leo, cracked into a police server, unearthing a deleted file, a memo from Holt ordering the framing of black, officials including Clarence with timestamps matching the planted briefcase. Clarence's pulse raced, the memo a sledgehammer to Holt's lies, and Leo uploaded it to a secure cloud, believing they'd finally outmaneuvered the captain, their victory a beacon in the dark. Clarence envisioned a press release, the memo clearing his name, freeing him from the fugitive's shadow, and he clasped Maya's hand, their shared defiance a spark against Holt's machine. But the spark died when Malik, waiting outside, drew a gun, his face twisted with guilt, confessing Holt's men had his sister hostage, forcing him to betray Clarence. Sirens wailed, Holt's militia swarming the den, their rifles glinting, slurs spitting as they smashed servers, bullets tearing through walls, one grazing Maya's leg as she screamed, blood pooling on concrete. Clarence dragged her to a back exit. Leo's body slumped behind, a casualty of Holt's wrath, and they fled into an alley, the malicious shouts fading but their threat a vice around Clarence's heart. Police choppers circled, Holt's unit broadcasting a manipulated video of Clarence's jailbreak, edited to show him attacking guards, the footage viral within hours, trending with fugitive Whitaker, 3 million views branding him a terrorist. DC erupted, protests clashing with riot police, Holt's narrative painting Clarence as a danger to the city, his blackness weaponized to justify a manhunt, the same racism that fueled his arrest, the raid, the shooting. Maya, limping, vowed to leak the memo, but their burner phones were dead. The cloud server hacked, Holt's operatives erasing their evidence with surgical precision. Clarence's triumph, the memo, was a mirage, Holt's betrayal a blade sharper. Then the indictment, the firebombing, or the trial. His militia a shadow army that struck without mercy. The alley's shadows swallowed them. DC's skyline a taunt, its monuments mocking justice, and Clarence carried Maya to a derelict warehouse 12 miles from the chaos, its rusted beams creaking under a leaking roof. Her wound bandaged. With his shirt oozed, her face pale, and Clarence's guilt surged, knowing his escape had cost Leo's life, endangered Maya, and fueled Holt's lies. The USB, still in his pocket, was a cruel joke, its photo useless without the memo, and Clarence's fugitive status, splashed across every screen, made him a target. His family's safety, a fading dream. Simone, at Evelyn's bedside, faced new threats, ex-posts showing her hospital route, Holt's operatives tightening the noose. Clarence's mind raced, piecing together Holt's strategy. The captain used Malik's betrayal to trap him, the militia to destroy evidence, the video to turn the city against him, each move a racist chess play to crush a black man who dared. Fight? The warehouse's damp air, 92 degrees, pressed against him, and Clarence planned with Maya, their whispers urgent, knowing Holt's next strike would be lethal, targeting Simone, Evelyn, or their last allies. He recalled the militia's slurs, their rifles, a mirror of the officers who cuffed him at the gala, the system's racism a thread tying every blow. Maya, feverish, mentioned a contact in Baltimore, a journalist who'd exposed militias, but their lack of a phone, a car, a plan, made it a distant hope. Clarence's arm scar burned, a reminder of Holt's fire, and he vowed to protect Maya, to find Simone, to save Evelyn, but the city's pulse, audible through cracked walls, was Holt's, its rhythm a countdown to his next trap. The USB's weight, a faint pulse in his pocket, was all he had. But Clarence needed a miracle, a witness, a file, something to break Holt's empire. The warehouse's darkness closed in, DC's lights a false promise, and Clarence, a fugitive. In a city he once judged, steeled himself, knowing freedom was a fight, not a gift, in a system built to chain men like him. Clarence Whitaker crouched in a DC warehouse, its rusted beams groaning under a leaking roof, the air heavy with 90-degree humidity as he tended to Maya Torres, her leg wound festering from a militia ambush that killed their hacker ally. Leo turned Clarence into a fugitive, branded a terrorist by Captain Raymond Holt's manipulated jailbreak video, a lie that fueled a citywide manhunt, its 3 million views on X, burying his legacy as a black Chief Justice under accusations of bribery, drug ties, and now violence. The USB drive, tucked in his pocket, held a photo of Holt with a militia leader, his only proof against a racist system that had arrested him, frozen his accounts, shot his wife Evelyn, and threatened his daughter Simone, but it was useless without. The police memo erased by Holt's operatives, a devastating blow after Clarence's fleeting hope of exposing the captain. Evelyn, still in the hospital 12 miles away, clung to life. Her shoulder wound a scar of Holt's drive-by, while Simone, hiding with a cousin, faced death threats pinpointing her location, Holt's militia tightening their grip. Clarence's arm, scarred from an earlier attack, ached, a reminder of Holt's relentless vendetta, rooted in Clarence's blackness. His reforms a threat to a corrupt system Holt protected with media lies, rigged trials, and militia bullets. Maya, pale but defiant, whispered of an underground activist group, Justice Rising, who'd fought police corruption, their leader, Tasha Green, a former prosecutor who'd lost her license exposing Holt's allies. They trekked 8 miles through DC's back alleys, dodging choppers, their blades slicing the night, and reached a basement hideout, its walls plastered with protest flyers, where Tasha, a woman with steel in her eyes, agreed to organize. A rally to broadcast Clarence's truth, the USB's photo a spark to ignite the city. Clarence, his voice hoarse, shared his story. The gala arrest, the smeared emails, the burned affidavit, the jailbreak, and the group, 20 strong, nodded, their anger mirroring his, their chants of justice a balm to his fractured spirit. Tasha planned a march on City Hall 5 miles away to project the photo on its facade, a bold move to sway DC's 600,000 residents, and Clarence felt a surge of hope, believing the rally could clear his name, protect his family, and expose Holt's racist empire. They spent days strategizing, printing banners, hacking X to spread the rally's call, their posts hitting 1 million views, trending with Rise for Clarence, a wave Holt couldn't ignore. The rally day dawned, 92 degrees, the plaza packed, with thousands, their signs demanding accountability. Clarence's face on screens, his testimony from the trial replayed, swaying hearts as X posts flipped, praising his courage. He spoke, his voice booming through a megaphone, detailing Holt's framing of black leaders, the crowd roaring, and Clarence believed he'd turned the tide, his name rising from the ashes, the photo ready to seal Holt's fate. But chaos erupted. Gunshots cracking, Holt's militia infiltrating the crowd, their hoods hiding faces but not their slurs, their bullets sparking panic, bodies falling as protesters screamed, the plaza a war zone. Clarence's brother Marcus, a teacher who'd joined the rally, took a bullet to the chest, his blood staining Clarence's hands as he tried to stem the flow, Marcus's final whisper urging him to fight, his eyes dimming in seconds. The crowd scattered, police in riot gear, Holt's unit storming in, tear gas choking the air, batons cracking skulls, the rally a trap Holt had foreseen, his operatives turning hope into horror. Clarence dragged Maya, her wound slowing her, to a side street, the militia's gunfire fading. But Marcus's death, a wound deeper than Evelyn's, crushed him, guilt and rage colliding as he realized Holt had planned this. The captain's shadow in every bullet. Ex-posts manipulated by Holt's bots blamed Clarence for the riot, trending with Clarence chaos, 4 million views calling him a murderer, the media spinning the deaths as his fault, a black man inciting violence. Tasha, separated in the chaos, sent a coded message via a burner phone directing them to a new hideout. But Clarence's hope flickered when Jamal, a hacker from Justice Rising, uncovered Holt's financial ties to a national racist network. Bank records showing millions funneled to militias. The USB's photo now a key to a larger conspiracy. Jamal, wiry and intense, uploaded the records to a dark web server, believing they'd secured evidence to bury Holt. But hours later, Jamal collapsed, foaming at the mouth, poisoned by a tampered water bottle, Holt's operatives striking again, their reach a spectre in every shadow. Clarence and Maya alone burned the hideout's papers, fleeing as sirens closed in, the records hacked and erased, Holt's bots framing Clarence for Jamal's murder, ex-posts trending with Killer Whitaker, 5 million views sealing his infamy. The city's pulse, audible through cracked windows, was Holt's, its rhythm a death knell. And Clarence, carrying Maya, reached a derelict church, 10 miles from the plaza, its pews rotting, its air 93 degrees, a sanctuary turned prison. Marcus's death, Jamal's poisoning, the riot's blood, all were Holt's weapons, his racism a machine that crushed black hope, each retaliation deadlier than the last, from arrests to shootings to mass chaos. Clarence's arm scar burned, Maya's fever spiked, and the USB, a faint weight, was all he had, its photo a taunt without the records. He recalled the militia's slurs, their rifles, a mirror of Holt's unit, the system's racism tying every blow, and vowed to protect. Maya, find Simone, save Evelyn. But the church's shadows whispered of Holt's next trap, a blade aimed at his heart. Tasha's message, a faint hope, spoke of a senator who could amplify their fight. But with no phone, no allies, Clarence's path was a tightrope over a void. The city's monuments, visible through stained glass, mocked justice, and Clarence, a fugitive in a city he once judged, steeled himself, knowing survival was a fight against a system built to break him. Comment number 1 if you're heartbroken by Marcus's loss, or if you think Clarence can still expose Holt's network. Hit like and subscribe to follow his desperate stand. Can Clarence find a new ally to fight Holt, or will the captain's next strike claim everyone he loves? Clarence Whitaker, huddled in a derelict DC church, its rotting pews a grim sanctuary, the 94-degree air thick with mildew as he supported Maya Torres, her leg wound infected from a militia ambush, their fight against Captain Raymond. Holt's racist empire now a desperate struggle, his life as a black chief justice reduced to a fugitive's shadow. Hunted for a staged jailbreak, a rigged bribery trial, and a riot that killed his brother Marcus, all orchestrated by Holt to Crush a black leader who dared reform a corrupt system. The USB drive, a faint weight in his pocket, held a photo of Holt with a militia leader. His only evidence after the police memo and financial records were erased, Holt's operatives firebombing Maya's apartment, poisoning their ally Jamal, and turning DC's 600,000 residents against Clarence with viral lies, from his gala arrest to a deepfake branding him a terrorist, now trending with Clarence chaos at 4 million views. Evelyn, his wife, lingered in a hospital 10 miles away. Her shoulder wound from Holt's drive-by, a constant ache in Clarence's heart, while Simone, his daughter, hid with a cousin, her phone buzzing with threats pinpointing her hospital visits, Holt's militia, a spectre in every shadow. The rally's failure, Marcus's blood on his hands and Jamal's death weighed like iron, but Tasha Green's coded message, scrawled on a smuggled note, offered a lifeline. Senator Elena Carter, a progressive with a history of challenging police corruption, could amplify their fight. Her congressional platform a megaphone to expose Holt's network. Clarence and Maya, battered but resolute, trekked 12 miles through DC's underbelly. Dodging patrols, their flashlights flickering in storm drains, the 90-degree night a furnace as they reached Elena's campaign office, a sleek glass. Building buzzing with aides. Elena, her voice warm but eyes sharp, listened to Clarence's story, the arrest, the smeared emails, the malicious bullets, and nodded, promising to present the USB's photo in a Senate hearing, her speech set to stream live to millions, a chance to clear Clarence's name and protect his family. She handed him a burner phone, its signal encrypted, and arranged a safe house 8 miles away, where Clarence and Maya could plan, their hope reignited, believing Elena's influence could shatter Holt's lies, the senator's outrage at systemic racism a mirror of their own. Clarence clasped the USB, its pixels a promise, and for the first time in weeks he slept, dreaming of Evelyn's smile, Simone's laugh, a life reclaimed. The hearing day dawned, 95 degrees, the Senate chamber packed, cameras rolling as Elena took the floor, projecting the photo, her voice thundering about Holt's militia ties, naming Clarence as a victim of a racist conspiracy, her words trending with Justice Now, 2 million views in hours. Clarence, watching from the safe house, a cramped apartment with peeling paint, felt triumph surge, believing the nation was waking, his fugitive status fading, Holt's empire cracking. But the dream shattered when explosions rocked the chamber. A terrorist attack staged by Holt's militia, their bombs hidden in vents, glass shattering, screams piercing the live feed as Elena fell, blood pooling under her suit, her aides scattering, the broadcast cutting to static. DC erupted, police sealing the city, Holt's unit blaming Clarence, their press release claiming he'd orchestrated the attack to silence Elena, a lie that exploded on X, trending with Clarence the terrorist. 5 million views in minutes, the media spinning him as a mastermind, his blackness weaponized to justify martial law. The safe house's TV blared, anchors dissecting Clarence's manifesto, a fabricated document Holt leaked, detailing plans for chaos, its words twisted from his trial testimony, a masterstroke of deception. Clarence's stomach churned, Elena's blood a new wound, her injury pinning her in a coma, her aides turning on him claiming he'd pressured her, Holt's operatives planting doubts in every ear. The USB's photo, broadcast but dismissed as a fake, was useless. Holt's bots flooding X with counter-narratives, erasing Clarence's hope, his allies, his name. Maya, feverish, her wound oozing, cursed Holt, her voice cracking as she bandaged her leg, vowing to fight. But their burner phone was dead, the safe house's walls closing in, 96 degrees of suffocating heat. Clarence's arm scar burned, a reminder of Holt's fire, and he realized the captain had planned this, using Elena's speech as bait, the attack a spectacle to bury Clarence deeper, his retaliation a sledgehammer after the rally's failure, the poisoning, the trial. The media's lies, the militia's bombs, the manifesto, all were Holt's weapons, his racism, a machine that crushed black resistance, each blow deadlier, more personal, targeting Clarence's family, his legacy, his soul. Simone, at Evelyn's bedside, faced new threats. Ex-posts showing her cousin's address, Holt's militia closing in while Evelyn's hospital, under police guard, felt like a trap. Holt's unit circling. Clarence and Maya fled the safe house, a 9-mile sprint, to a derelict garage, its oil-stained floor a cold refuge, their breath ragged, Maya's fever spiking, her resolve fading. Clarence's guilt surged, Elena's coma, Marcus's death, Jamal's poisoning, all tied to his fight, his blackness a target Holt wielded with surgical cruelty, the system's racism a thread in every attack, from the gala cuffs to the Senate's blood. He recalled the militia's slurs, their bombs, a mirror of Holt's unit, and vowed to protect Maya, find Simone, save Evelyn. But the garage's shadows whispered of Holt's next move, a blade aimed at his heart. Tasha, missing since the rally, was their last hope. But with no phone, no allies, Clarence's path was a tightrope over a void. The USB, a faint pulse, was all he had, but he needed a witness, a file, something to break Holt's empire. The city's pulse, audible through cracked walls, was Holt's, its rhythm a death knell, and Clarence, a fugitive in a city he once judged, steeled himself, knowing survival was a fight against a system built to devour men like him, his resolve, a flame flickering in the dark, ready to ignite or be snuffed out by Holt's next trap. Clarence Whitaker crouched in a derelict DC garage, its oil-stained floor cold against his knees, the 93-degree air thick with the stench of grease as he supported Maya Torres. Her infected leg wound a grim reminder of Captain Raymond, Holt's militia ambush, their fight against a racist system now a desperate gasp. Clarence, a fugitive, branded a terrorist for a staged jailbreak, a rigged bribery trial, a riot that killed his brother Marcus, and a Senate bombing pinned on him, all to crush a black Chief Justice whose reforms challenged Holt's empire. The USB drive, a faint pulse in his pocket, held a photo of Holt with a militia leader, his only evidence after memos, records, and allies were erased by Holt's operatives, who'd shot his wife Evelyn, threatened his daughter Simone, and left. Senator Elena Carter in a coma, their lies trending with Clarence. The terrorist at 5 million views on XDC's 600,000 residents turned against him. Evelyn, recovering 10 miles away, faced tightened hospital security, Holt's unit circling while Simone, hiding with a cousin, dodged threats pinpointing her location. Holt's militia, a specter in every shadow. The rally's blood, Jamal's, poisoning, Elena's fall, all weighed like chains. But Tasha Green, missing since the riot, had left a coded note in the church, hinting at a hard drive in Holt's private estate, 15 miles away, containing proof of his militia network. A final chance to expose the captain. Clarence and Maya, battered but resolute, rallied a small team from Justice Rising, 4 survivors of the rally, their faces hardened by loss, led by Malik, a coder who'd hacked Holt's bots before Jamal's death, his guilt over past failures, her fire matching Clarence's. They planned an infiltration, studying estate blueprints smuggled by a defected guard, the mansion a fortress of cameras, dogs, and militia patrols, Holt's paranoia a mirror of his power. The team trekked through DC's outskirts, 9 miles of moonless fields, the 90-degree night a furnace, their flashlights dim to avoid drones, Clarence's arm scar throbbing, a reminder of Holt's fire, his racism a blade that cut deeper with each blow, from the gala arrest to the Senate's blood. The estate loomed, its iron gates glinting, and Malik disabled the cameras, his laptop humming, while Tasha's sister Lena, a former Marine, cut through a fence, their breaths synchronized as they slipped inside. The mansion's halls silent, but alive with threat. Clarence led, his heart pounding, the USB a talisman as they navigated marble corridors, Holt's trophies mocking justice, a photo of him with DC's elite, a taunt of his untouchability. They found the study, a vault of dark wood, and Malik cracked the safe, revealing the hard drive, its files detailing Holt's militia funding, names of senators, judges, and CEOs, a roadmap to his racist network, timestamps linking to Clarence's framing, the briefcase, the trial. Clarence's pulse raced, the driver sledgehammer to Holt's lies, and he believed they'd won. Envisioning a broadcast to clear his name, protect Simone, save Evelyn, the team's eyes gleaming with hope as they copied the files, their whispers, a prayer in the dark. But the prayer broke when alarms screamed, red lights flashing, Holt's militia storming in, their rifles raised, slurs spitting as they opened fire, bullets shattering glass. Lena falling, her chest a crimson ruin. Two others collapsing, their blood pooling on marble. Clarence grabbed Maya, her wound slowing her, and Malik clutching the drive, but the coder froze, his eyes wide. Confessing Holt had his family hostage. The hard drive a decoy planted to lure Clarence, a trap the captain had set. His betrayal a blade sharper than the riot, the bombing, the trial. The militia's leader, a scarred man from the USB photo, laughed, broadcasting a live feed of Clarence's confession, manipulated to show him stealing state secrets, the video streaming to millions, trending with Traitor Whitaker 6 million views in minutes, DC's streets erupting in outrage, Holt's bots amplifying the lie, Clarence's blackness weaponized to paint him a national threat. Clarence fought, disarming a guard, his fists bloody, but the militia overwhelmed them. Malik fleeing with the decoy, Maya dragged away, her screams echoing as Clarence dove through a window, glass cutting his arms, landing in a thorn-choked garden, the estate's floodlights blinding. He sprinted, 9 miles to a sewer grate, the 91-degree night of Vice militia drones buzzing overhead, their heat sensors locking on, Holt's voice crackling through a speaker, taunting him to surrender. The broadcast, looping on every screen, crushed Clarence's hope, his team's blood, Maya's capture, Malik's betrayal, all Holt's weapons, his racism a machine that devoured black resistance. Each retaliation deadlier, from cuffs to bombs to global lies. The sewer's dank air choked him, DC's skyline a taunt through grates, and Clarence alone clutched the USB, its photo useless, the real drive lost, his family's safety a fading dream. Evelyn's hospital, Simone's hideout, were traps. Holt's militia closing in, their slurs a mirror of the gala officers, the system's racism tying every blow. He recalled Lena's sacrifice, her blood, and vowed to find Maya, save Simone, protect Evelyn, but the sewer's shadows whispered of Holt's next move, a guillotine aimed at his heart. Tasha, their last hope, was a ghost, and with no team, no drive, Clarence's path was a wire over an abyss. The city's pulse, a distant hum, was Holt's, its rhythm a death knell, and Clarence, a fugitive in a city he once judged, steeled himself, his resolve a spark in the dark, knowing survival was a fight against a system built to erase men like him. Comment number 1 if you're stunned by this betrayal, or if you believe Clarence can still fight Holt's lies. Hit like and subscribe to see his next desperate move. Will Clarence rescue Maya and expose Holt, or has the captain's trap sealed his fate forever? Clarence Whitaker slogged through a DC sewer, its dank walls dripping with sludge, the 92-degree air choking his lungs as he fled a militia ambush at Captain Raymond Holt's estate, where his team was slaughtered, Maya Torres captured, and a decoy hard drive exposed as a trap. Holt's latest blow in a racist vendetta to destroy a black Chief Justice, now a fugitive branded a traitor for a staged jailbreak, a rigged bribery trial, a riot that killed his brother Marcus, and a Senate bombing pinned on him, trending with Traitor Whitaker at 6 million views on ex-DC's 600,000 residents baying for his blood. The USB drive, a faint weight in his pocket, held a photo of Holt with a militia leader. His only evidence after memos, records and allies were erased. Holt's operatives shooting his wife Evelyn, threatening his daughter Simone, and leaving. Senator Elena Carter in a coma, their lies burying Clarence's legacy under a gala arrest, smeared emails and a deepfake confession. Evelyn, recovering 10 miles away, was a prisoner in her hospital, Holt's unit guarding her, while Simone, hiding with a cousin, faced threats pinpointing her every move. Holt's militia a shadow in every corner. The estate's blood, Lena's sacrifice, Maya's screams, all fueled Clarence's resolve. But the sewer's darkness mirrored his despair, the USB useless without proof, his team gone, Maya lost, Tasha Green a ghost since the rally. A faint radio signal, caught on a stolen earpiece, buzzed with news of a live TV debate 7 miles away. Hosted by a network Holt influenced, discussing police reform, a platform Clarence could hijack to broadcast the USB's photo, his last chance to expose the captain. He emerged from the sewer, the 90-degree night a furnace, and trekked to a Justice Rising safe house, 5 miles through DC's alleys, dodging drones, his arm scar throbbing from past militia fire, the system's racism a blade in every blow from cuffs to bombs. The safe house, a basement with cracked walls, held a burner phone and a laptop left by Tasha's last operative, Zara, a hacker who'd evaded Holt's bots. Zara, her eyes fierce, hacked the debate's broadcast system, routing Clarence's signal to override the feed, the USB's photo ready to stream to millions, a desperate gambit to sway the nation, protect Simone, save Evelyn, find Maya. The debate, aired from a studio downtown, buzzed with pundits, Holt's allies spinning lies about Clarence's terrorism. But Zara's hack cut through, Clarence's face filling screens across DC, his voice steady, detailing Holt's militia, ties the Gawler arrest, the trial, the riot, the bombing. The photo projected behind him, its pixels a stark accusation. The audience gasped. X-posts flipping, trending with Truth for Clarence, 3 million views in minutes. The studio's panel stunned. One pundit, a former cop, faltering as Clarence named Holt's network, senators, judges, CEOs, his words afire. Igniting hope, his fugitive status fading, believing he'd turned the tide, the nation waking to Holt's racism, his family's safety within reach. But the fire died when a bomb detonated. The studio's ceiling collapsing, flames roaring, screams piercing the live feed as bodies fell, dozens dead. The broadcast cutting to chaos, Holt's militia striking again, their explosives hidden in the studio's rigging, a trap the captain had set, knowing Clarence's desperation. Police swarmed Holt's unit, their radios crackling with orders to pin the attack on Clarence. Their press release claiming he'd bombed the studio to silence reform, a lie that exploded on X, trending with Clarence the bomber, 7 million views in hours, the media spinning him as a mass murderer, his blackness weaponized to justify a city lockdown. The safe house's TV blared, anchors dissecting Clarence's vendetta. The photo dismissed as a fake, Holt's bots flooding X with counter-narratives, erasing his truth, his hope, his name. Zara, frantic, traced the bomb's signal to Holt's operatives, but their laptop fried. Holt's hackers shutting them down. The safe house now a target, its walls shaking as drones buzzed overhead, their heat sensors locking on. Clarence fled, dragging Zara a 6-mile sprint to a derelict pier. The Potomac stench a cold refuge, the 91-degree night of ice, his arm bleeding from glass cuts. Maya's capture, the team's blood, the bombing, all Holt's weapons. His racism a machine that crushed black resistance, each retaliation deadlier, from arrests to mass slaughter. The pier's shadows swallowed them, DC's skyline a taunt, its monuments mocking justice, and Clarence's guilt surged. The studio's dead, Maya's screams, Marcus's blood, all tied to his fight, his blackness a target Holt wielded with surgical cruelty, the system's racism a thread in every attack. He recalled the militia's slurs, their bombs, a mirror of Holt's unit, and vowed to find Maya, save Simone, protect Evelyn. But the pier's creaking boards whispered of Holt's next move, a guillotine aimed at his heart. Zara, coughing, revealed a lead. Holt's operatives had taken Maya to a militia compound 8 miles away, a fortress where Simone might be next. Holt's unit closing in, their radios crackling with orders to kill. The USB, a faint pulse, was useless, the broadcast a failure, and Clarence's path was a wire over an abyss. Tasha gone, allies dead, the city Holt's. The bombing smoke, visible across the river, was a scar, and Clarence, a fugitive in a city he once judged, steeled himself. Knowing survival was a fight against a system built to erase men like him, his resolve a spark in the dark, ready to ignite or be snuffed out by Holt's next trap. Clarence Whitaker clung to the shadows of a DC pier, the Potomac's rancid stench a cold shroud, the 90-degree night pressing against his chest as he and Zara, the last justice-rising hacker, planned a desperate rescue of his daughter, Simone, kidnapped by Captain Raymond Holt's militia, their latest strike in a racist vendetta to destroy a black Chief Justice. Now a fugitive branded a mass murderer for a staged jailbreak, a rigged bribery trial, a riot that killed his brother Marcus, a Senate bombing and a TV studio attack, all pinned on him. trending with Clarence the Bomber at 7 million views on XDC's 600,000 residents, hunting him like prey. The USB drive, a faint pulse in his pocket, held a photo of Holt with a militia leader. His only evidence after memos, records and allies were erased. Holt's operatives shooting his wife Evelyn, capturing his attorney Maya Torres, and leaving. Senator Elena Carter in a coma. Their lies burying Clarence's legacy under a gala arrest, smeared emails and a deepfake confession. Evelyn, 10 miles away, lingered in a hospital under Holt's guard. Her shoulder wound a scar of their drive-by, while Maya, taken during the estate ambush, was held in a militia compound 8 miles from the pier where Simone was now prisoner, Holt's threats pinpointing her every move. The studio bombing smoke, the team's blood, Maya's screams, all fueled Clarence's resolve, but the pier's creaking boards mirrored his despair. The USB useless, Zara his last ally, Tasha Green missing since the rally. Zara's lead, hacked from a militia server, confirmed the compound's location, a fortified bunker in DC's outskirts, bristling with guards, drones and razor wire, Simone and Maya its trophies, Holt's bait to lure Clarence. He and Zara, battered but fierce, stole a van, a 6-mile drive through DC's backroads, the 91-degree air furnace, Clarence's arm scar throbbing from past militia fire, the system's racism a blade in every blow, from cuffs to bombs. The compound loomed, its concrete walls lit by floodlights, and Zara disabled the drones, her laptop humming, while Clarence, armed with a guard's stolen pistol, cut through a sewer grate, his heart pounding as they crawled into the bunker, its air dank. The militia's slurs echoing through vents. They found Simone bound in a cell, her eyes wide with fear, and Clarence freed her, his whisper a promise to protect her. But Maya, in a nearby cage, was pale, her leg wound festering, her voice weak but urging haste. The team slipped through corridors, dodging patrols, their breaths ragged, and reached a loading bay believing they'd won. Simone clinging to Clarence, Maya leaning on Zara, the van 100 yards away, freedom a heartbeat close. Clarence's pulse soared, the rescue a light in the dark, his family's safety, Maya's life within grasp, Holt's trap seemingly broken, the USB a spark to reignite their fight. But the light died when drones screamed overhead, a trap triggered, Holt's militia flooding the bay, their rifles raised, slurs spitting as they opened fire, bullets ricocheting off steel. Zara, frantic, confessed she'd been coerced, Holt's operatives holding her brother hostage, planting a tracker in her laptop. The rescue a setup to crush Clarence's hope, the compound a killbox. A drone strike hit, the bay erupting in flames, concrete collapsing. Maya thrown back, her screams drowned by the blast. Evelyn's hospital, 12 miles away, now a target. Holt's unit broadcasting Clarence's location, the strike pinned. It's on him, X trending with Clarence the killer. 8 million views in minutes, the media spinning him as a warlord, his blackness weaponized to justify a national manhunt. Clarence shielded Simone, dragging Maya's limp body, Zara's betrayal a dagger, her body buried in rubble, the militia's laughter a chorus of hate, their leader, the scarred man from the USB photo, taunting him to surrender. He fought, firing. The pistol, his arm bleeding but the militia overwhelmed, their boots crunching glass as they advanced. Clarence retreating to a sewer tunnel 9 miles from safety, the 90-degree night of vice. Maya's pulse faint, Simone's sobs a knife in his heart. The broadcast looping on every screen showed drone footage of the strike, edited to frame Clarence as the attacker, his rescue a terrorist act. DC's streets locked down, Holt's bots flooding X with lies, erasing his truth, his hope, his name. The tunnel's dank air choked him, Maya's blood soaking his hands, and Clarence's guilt surged. The compound's dead, Zara's betrayal, the bombing's toll, all tied to his fight, his blackness a target Holt wielded with surgical cruelty. The system's racism a thread in every attack, from the gala to the drone's fire. He recalled the militia's slurs, their rifles, a mirror of Holt's unit, and vowed to save Maya, protect Simone, reach Evelyn. But the tunnel's shadows whispered of Holt's next move, a guillotine aimed at his heart. Evelyn's hospital. Under siege was a trap. Simone's cousin missing, Tasha gone, the USB useless. Clarence's path a wire over an abyss. The city's pulse a distant hum was Holt's, its rhythm a death knell, and Clarence, carrying Maya, shielding Simone, stumbled through the dark, his arm scar burning, knowing Holt's operatives had hacked national news, their lies a tidal. Waved the strike's smoke, a scar across DC's skyline, visible through grates. He bandaged Maya's wounds, her fever spiking, Simone's eyes hollow, and planned a desperate move, a journalist in Baltimore, Tasha's last contact, who could amplify the USB, but with no phone, no van, the city a cage, Holt's militia closing, in their radios crackling with orders to kill. The tunnel's end, a faint light, was a gamble, and Clarence, a fugitive in a city he once judged, steeled himself, his resolve a spark in the dark, knowing survival was a fight against a system built to erase men like him, his family's lives the cost of Holt's next trap. Clarence Whitaker staggered through a DC sewer tunnel, its slimy walls a cold cage, the 91-degree air choking his lungs as he carried Maya Torres, her leg wound bleeding, barely conscious after a drone strike on a militia compound where he'd rescued his daughter Simone, now trembling beside him. Their escape a fleeting triumph crushed by Captain Raymond Holt's betrayal, his racist vendetta branding Clarence a mass murderer for a staged jailbreak, a rigged bribery trial, a riot that killed his brother Marcus, a Senate bombing, and a TV studio attack, trending with Clarence the Killer at 8 million views on ex-DC's 600,000 residents, a lynch mob. The USB drive, a faint pulse in his pocket, held a photo of Holt with a militia leader. His only evidence after memos, records, and allies were erased, Holt's operatives shooting his wife Evelyn, capturing Maya, and threatening Simone. There lies burying Clarence's legacy as a black Chief Justice under a gala arrest, smeared emails and a deep-fake confession. Evelyn, 12 miles away, lingered in a hospital, Holt's unit circling. While the compound's flames, Zara's betrayal, and the team's blood weighed like iron, Tasha Green missing, Senator Elena Carter comatose, the system's racism, blade in every blow from cuffs to drones. Clarence's arm scar burned, a reminder of Holt's fire. But Simone's grip, Maya's faint pulse, fueled his resolve. The USB a spark to expose Holt's empire, a national network of racist elites. Senators, judges, CEOs, its proof lost in the estate's decoy trap. Her faint signal, caught on a scavenged radio, buzzed with news of a national broadcast 9 miles away, hosted by a network Holt influenced, a chance to hack Holt's private servers and air his confession, recorded during the estate infiltration, a desperate gambit to clear his name, save his family, find Maya's captors. Clarence, Simone, and Maya reached a Justice Rising hideout, 7 miles through DC's alleys, dodging militia drones, the 90-degree night a furnace, the basement's cracked walls a refuge where Tasha, battered but alive, waited, her eyes fierce, having evaded Holt's hunters since the rally. Tasha's hacker Rico, a wiry teen, cracked Holt's servers, unearthing the confession, Holt's voice admitting to framing black leaders, ordering the bribery, the riot, the bombing, timestamps matching Clarence's ordeal, a sledgehammer to the captain's lies. Rico routed the audio to the broadcast, overriding the feed during a news cycle. Clarence's face filling screens across America, his voice steady, detailing Holt's crimes, the gala arrest, the trial, the militia's slurs, the USB's photo. Projected behind him, the confession playing. Holt's words a noose around his empire, trending with Expose Holt, 4 million views in minutes, DC's streets erupting in protests, the nation waking, Clarence believing he'd won, his fugitive. Status fading, Simone safe, Evelyn's hospital secure, Maya stirring, her eyes opening, a victory forged in blood. But the victory cracked when Holt's operatives countered, hacking the broadcast, splicing Clarence's words to frame the confession as a hoax, a deep fake by a terrorist, their bots flooding X with lies, trending with Clarence lies, 5 million. Views in hours, the media spinning him as a fraud, Holt's allies in Congress dismissing the audio, the photo debunked as AI, Holt fled, his servers wiped, a contingency plan erasing his digital trail, his militia launching a final assault on the hideout 10 miles from the broadcast, their rockets shattering walls, flames roaring, Tasha falling, her blood pooling, Rico's screams drowned by the blast. Clarence shielding Simone, dragging Maya, her wound tearing open, the hideout a tomb, Holt's operatives closing in, their slurs a chorus of hate, their leader, the scarred man from the USB laughing, his rifle raised. Clarence fought, firing a stolen gun, his arm bleeding. Simone's sobs, a knife in his heart, but the militia overwhelmed, their drones circling, a rocket grazing his leg, pain searing. Yet he carried Maya, pushed Simone through a back exit, 9 miles to a derelict factory, the 92-degree night a vice, the city's skyline a taunt, its monuments mocking justice. The broadcast's failure, Tasha's death, the hideout's flames, all were Holt's weapons. His racism a machine that crushed black resistance, each retaliation deadlier, from arrests to mass slaughter. His contingency a guillotine sharper than the drone strike, the bombing, the trial. Police swarmed, Holt's unit, their radios crackling, arresting the captain at a safe house, his smirk defiant. The confession enough to jail him, but his network's erasure, the media's spin, left Clarence a fugitive, his truth buried, X. Posts trending with Holt the victim, 6 million views claiming Clarence framed an innocent cop, his blackness weaponized to justify the manhunt. The factory's rusted beams creaked, Maya's pulse faint, Simone's eyes hollow, and Clarence's guilt surged. The hideout's dead, Maya's pain, Simone's fear, all tied to his fight, his blackness a target Holt wielded with surgical cruelty. The system's racism a thread in every attack from the gala to the rockets. He recalled the militia's slurs, their flames, a mirror of Holt's unit, and vowed to protect Simone, save Maya, reach Evelyn, but the factory's shadows whispered of Holt's allies, a cabal untouched, their reach a noose tightening. Evelyn's hospital under siege was a trap. Simone's cousin dead, the USB useless, Clarence's path a wire over an abyss. He bandaged Maya's wound, her fever spiking, Simone's hand trembling, and planned a final move. A journalist in Baltimore, Tasha's last contact, who could amplify the confession's fragments, but with no phone, no van, the city a cage. Holt's allies closing in, their radios crackling with orders to kill. The factory's damp air, 93 degrees, pressed against him, the broadcast smoke a scar across DC's skyline, visible through cracked windows, and Clarence, a fugitive in a city he once judged, steeled himself, knowing Holt's arrest was a hollow victory. His network alive, the system built to erase men like him, his resolve a spark in the dark, ready to ignite or be snuffed out by the cabal's next trap. Clarence Whitaker hid in a derelict DC factory, its rusted beams creaking under a leaking roof, the 90-degree air heavy with oil and despair, as he cradled Maya Torres, her leg wound oozing, barely alive after a militia assault on their hideout, his daughter Simone trembling beside him, their fleeting victory of broadcasting Captain Raymond Holt's confession shattered by a hoax spin, a rocket attack, and Holt's arrest, a hollow triumph in a racist vendetta that branded Clarence a mass murderer for a staged jailbreak, a rigged bribery trial, a riot that killed his brother Marcus, a Senate bombing, and a TV studio attack. Trending with Holt the victim, at 6 million views on XDC's 600,000 residents, a lynch mob. The USB drive, a faint pulse in his pocket, held a photo of Holt with a militia leader. His only evidence after memos, records, and allies were erased, Holt's operatives shooting his wife Evelyn, capturing Maya, and threatening Simone there, lies burying Clarence's legacy as a black chief justice under a gala arrest, smeared emails, and a deepfake confession. The system's racism, a blade in every blow, from cuffs to rockets. Evelyn, 12 miles away, lingered in a hospital, Holt's unit gone but her safety fragile, while Simone, scarred by her compound rescue, clung to Clarence, her eyes hollow, the militia's slurs, the drone strike's flames, a trauma no embrace could heal. The hideout's blood, Tasha's death, Maya's pain, all weighed like chains, but Holt's arrest, driven by the confession, cleared Clarence of major charges, his fugitive status lifted, a bittersweet dawn after months of hell. The USBs, spark enough to jail the captain, though his network's erasure left Clarence's truth buried, His judgeship lost, his family broken. He moved them to a safe house 8 miles away, a modest apartment with barred windows. The 91-degree heat, a constant pressure, Maya stabilized by a rogue medic, Simone silent, Evelyn discharged but frail. Her shoulder wound a scar of Holt's drive-by, their home a fortress of grief. Ex-post still trending with Clarence lies, 5 million views calling him a fraud. The media spinning Holt as a scapegoat, a cop framed by a black man's vendetta, his blackness weaponized to dismiss his fight. Clarence rebuilt, piece by piece, contacting a Baltimore journalist, Lena Brooks, Tasha's last contact, who'd exposed militias, her outlet small but fierce, ready to amplify the USB's photo, the confession's fragments, a chance to spark. Reform, protect his family, honor Marcus, Tasha, Jamal, Lena, Zara, all lost to Holt's machine. Lena's article, published online, hit 1 million views, detailing Holt's crimes, the gala, the trial, the militia, trending with justice for Clarence, the nation stirring, protests flaring in D.C., Baltimore, Chicago, demanding accountability. Clarence's name rising from ashes, a symbol of resistance. His resolve a fire that refused to die despite the cost. His career in ruins, his family's trust frayed. Evelyn's nightmares, Simone's silence, Maya's scars, a ledger of pain no victory could erase. He launched a legal fund, the Whitaker Justice Initiative, crowdfunding $10,000 in days, aimed at fighting systemic racism, training lawyers to challenge corrupt systems, a legacy to outlive his judgeship, his voice steady in interviews, urging unity, reform, hope, the safe house a command center, its walls plastered with plans, Lena's articles, Simone's sketches, a family fighting together, their wounds a testament to survival. But the fire dimmed at a press conference, 7 miles from the safe house, 92 degrees, cameras rolling as Clarence spoke, his words a call to dismantle racist systems. The crowd of 2,000 roaring, trending with Whitaker rises. 3 million views when news broke. Holt in prison had issued a public apology. His face gaunt on every screen, begging forgiveness, claiming he'd been misled. A reformed man seeking redemption, his tears convincing. Ex-posts flipping, trending with Forgive Holt. 4 million views in hours, some believing him, others enraged. Clarence's stomach churning, the apology a lie, a performance to salvage. His network, the militia, the senators, judges, CEOs untouched, their power a shadow over DC's skyline. The crowd wavered, some booing Clarence, Holt's bots amplifying doubt, the media spinning his fight as vengeance, a black man's grudge against a changed cop, the system's racism a thread in every lie, from the gala to the apologies. Crocodile tears. Clarence's rage flared, his arm scar burning, Evelyn's hand steadying him, Simone's eyes fierce, Maya, wheelchair-bound, nodding. Their fight not over, Holt's jail cell a stage, not a cage. Lena at the conference slipped Clarence a hidden audio. Smuggled from a prison guard, Holt's voice recorded days ago, planning a new racist campaign from behind bars, detailing a shadowy cabal, names of elites, a network beyond his militia, funding attacks on black leaders, rigging systems. The USB's photo a mere glimpse of their reach, the confession a spark they'd underestimated. Clarence took the stage, his voice thunder, playing the audio. Holt's words a blade, exposing the cabal, the crowd gasping, cameras zooming, erupting, trending with cabal exposed, 5 million views in minutes, DC's streets flooding with protesters. The nation reeling. Holt's apology shattered, his face a mask of defeat, but the cabal's shadow loomed, its members unnamed, untouchable, their power a noose tightening. The conference ended, police swarming, Holt's allies in retreat. But Clarence's victory was bitter, his family traumatized, Evelyn's health fragile, Simone's trust a thread, Maya's career gone, the Whitaker Justice Initiative a spark. But systemic racism a hydra, its heads regrowing. The cabal's reach a spectre in every shadow, DC's monuments mocking justice, the 93-degree air a weight, the city's pulse a warning, not a promise. Clarence stood with his family, the safe house their fortress, Lena's article their sword, the audio their shield, but the cabal's silence was a storm brewing, Their next move a guillotine, Holt's jail cell a distraction, his network alive. The system built to erase men like him, his blackness a target from the gala to the prison's lies. He recalled the malicious slurs, their flames, a mirror of Holt's unit, and vowed to protect Simone, Evelyn, Maya, to fight the cabal, but the safe house's walls whispered of danger. A war beyond Holt, a fight no fund could win. The USB, now public, was a relic, the audio a spark. And Clarence, a man who once judged a city, steeled himself, his resolve a flame in the dark, knowing justice was a battle, not a gift, in a system rigged to break him. His family's scars a map of the cost, the cabal's shadow a challenge he'd face or die trying. The story of Clarence Whitaker reveals the devastating toll of systemic racism, a force that stripped a black Chief Justice of his legacy through a wrongful arrest, rigged trials, and militia violence, orchestrated by Captain Raymond Holt's racist vendetta. It teaches us that racism is not just personal prejudice, but a machine embedded in institutions, from police to media, crushing black excellence with lies, like the 6 million X views branding Clarence a murderer. His resilience, despite losing his brother, career, and family's safety, shows the power of fighting back, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Clarence's Whitaker Justice Initiative, born from pain, underscores that change begins with collective action, challenging corrupt systems through unity, not silence. The shocking twist, revealing Holt's cabal, warns that racism's roots run deep beyond one villain, demanding vigilance against shadowy networks that rig justice. Clarence's story, set in DC's 90-degree heat, is a call to confront racism head-on, to amplify truth and to protect those targeted by hate. It reminds us that justice is a battle, not a gift, and every step forward, like Clarence's fund, is a victory, however bitter. What can we do to dismantle systemic racism in our own communities? Comment number 1 if you're inspired to act. Hit like, subscribe, and share to spread this story's truth. Thank you for joining Clarence's fight, standing for justice. In a world too often unjust, may you find strength to challenge racism wherever it hides, carrying hope forward.